Now let's talk about washing your hands, and I'm going to broaden this to not just washing your hands, but what's the context of washing your hands? So can washing your hands be a safety cue? Yeah, sure. I mean, just in general, yeah, but what I'm more concerned about is what about washing your hands is a safety cue? Because it's not just the action. Maybe rubbing your hands together, maybe that's a safety cue. Maybe it's the water. Maybe it's just feeling clean, I guess, or the act of cleaning yourself. But there's other things going on when you're washing your hands. So I want you to, not just with this example, but notice when it comes to things that you feel pulled toward. Like maybe it is washing your hands, maybe it is jogging or working out or drawing or swimming. Whatever it is that you feel pulled towards, it might not be just the action. Maybe there's more going on contextually that you feel this pull towards, that you feel this safety pull towards. So notice the entire context of what it is. So let's talk about washing your hands in particular. Usually when we wash our hands, we're in a bathroom, or I guess some sink somewhere, but I'm imagining a bathroom. But this could also be a kitchen sink. It could be a public bathroom. So basically, when we go to wash our hands, typically we're alone, or closer to being alone, or we're at least removed from other people or potentially other danger cues. The point here is that typically when we go to wash our hands, it's a smaller environment, right? There's less stimulation, potentially. There's some sense of aloneness. So you might have an opportunity to breathe. You may have an opportunity to slow down. You may be out of a context that you don't want to be in. Maybe in that bathroom, the lighting's a bit dimmer and that feels better for your system. Versus, if you go to a loud restaurant, there definitely could be dim lighting. But if you go to a restaurant where it's really loud, that may be overstimulating. But if you go to the bathroom and wash your hands or use the restroom or just whatever, that could be an opportunity to escape from that overstimulating environment to an environment that has a reduction in stimulation. So maybe it's not washing your hands, maybe it's just the change in environment. But also when you go to wash your hands, you might be in a place where you're alone or more likely to be alone. There may be something soothing in that environment where you're washing your hands, like the smell of your soap, or maybe there's some decorations on the wall, like maybe there's a decoration, maybe there's some wonderful old shiplap on the wall that you just kind of feel good, or when you look at. There also just might be a chance to breathe. Maybe you have a chance to slow down and breathe when you're washing your hands in this little smaller environment. But there's also the temperature of the water. Maybe that just kind of feels good. Maybe the feel of the water feels good, or is a safety cue, basically. So it's not just the action of washing your hands. That could be part of it as well. But there's a whole bunch of things that come into play when you're washing your hands. The same thing we could say, let's say, for me, I like to go swimming. Now, the action of swimming is absolutely grounding for me, the physical movement. But my backyard has a ton of green in it. I like that a lot. It's very soothing. It's relatively quiet. The dogs can get kind of annoying, sure, and there's traffic, yeah. But when I go underwater, I don't hear much of anything. That actually provides this kind of sensory dampening that my system kind of likes. So is it just the swimming? No, there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes along with it. A beautiful sunny day, that's a safety cue in and of itself as well. What I would encourage you to do is whatever it is that you feel this pull towards that may feel like safety, kind of notice it and notice, what is helping you. What of the context is actually appealing? What of the context that you're in do you find to be grounding or to be a safety cue or safety anchor? What's passive in that environment that works for you? And what are you actively doing that works for you? The sunshine, when I go outside and swim tomorrow afternoon, is going to be a passive safety cue. Me going underwater and swimming and pushing off the wall, kicking off the walls, that's an active safety cue, things that I can do. But so notice these pieces that, the next time that you're grounding yourself and really mindfully experience it. And I really want you to do so because these things can become these default kind of compulsions. You can easily think of someone who just keeps washing their hands because something about it feels right. And I'm not exactly talking about OCD. I'm talking about just general. I'm using the compulsion more generally here. Although, yeah, it might have a lot to do with OCD as well. I think that these things that kind of seem to make us feel better can become compulsions in a sense. And that's not a safety anchor. That's different. That's something different. that would be more of this like a behavioral adaptation. And yeah, compulsive washing of hands could totally be that. It's a behavioral adaptation. It's something that we compulsively engage in, or even reflexively engage in, because it somehow seems to do something to our state. It helps us to regulate enough to where that defensive state's not out of control. It's not exactly relief, but it's just less crumminess, I guess I would say, put it that way. So it's kind of better. Better as an evaluation. It's kind of a reduction in pain, maybe. But that's different. That's a behavioral adaptation. That's not really a safety anchor. It's not really genuinely a safety cue. So just be mindful of that when you feel the pull or maybe even a compulsion toward these things. This podcast is not therapy, not intended to be therapy or be a replacement for therapy. Nothing in this creates or indicates a therapeutic relationship. Please consult with your therapist or seek for one in your area if you are experiencing mental health symptoms. Nothing in this podcast should be construed to be specific life advice. It is for educational and entertainment purposes only. More resources are available in the description of this episode and in the footer of justinlmft.com.